Hello, beautiful souls. It's me, Brittany, and this is Basement Philosophies. So I haven't been on here in a while. Oh my God. I just looked at my record. It was back in February, and everything was changing, and I was in a really bad place. I just was really lost, and I had all these big plans. And I was feeling very hopeful, and that hope still hasn't, gone away. But it's funny how we just make all these big plans when we're trying to run from pain and suffering. I think that's what it all was. And I was just not dealing with my life the way that I needed to. I was sort of running from it. And my life it's constantly playing in a pattern, It's always a circle that I'm going around, and it's not a healthy process. It's a very toxic struggle, a very toxic circle that I was constantly going around. And I knew that I needed to break the cycle, and I didn't know how. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, and it's still, even after all of these months, it's something that that me and my therapist work on. And it's strange because you think, okay, break the cycle, just do something differently, but it's much more complex than that. At least it's proving to be with me. And it's not about making one big change, because you can remove yourself from an environment and go to a different one, but ultimately, whatever got you there, those little problems, they're still there. They follow you. That's why I could have moved to a different country, but my issues still would have been there. In some way, that cycle would have continued. And what I needed to do, and what I still do, is I live my life in a way where I'm constantly making different choices, small choices. Sorry about those sirens. I need to get a new microphone. I don't know which one to get. And I'm on the 28th floor with all the doors closed. That's how much this microphone picks up background noise. Anyway, so it's about these small sustainable changes that I make, and I have to be very mindful throughout the day, which is hard. It's hard to be mindful. Most of us, if not all of us, live on autopilot for some part of the day. I think it's almost impossible to not, live unconsciously, even for, small periods of time. But for me, it's, most of the day I'm just on autopilot. I'm like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, I've got to wash dishes, clean the house, and I'm not really focusing on what I'm doing. My mind is just constantly racing. My inner dialogue is doing what it does best and runs rampant without me controlling it very much. And that leads to its own problems. But I've had to, really remain mindful throughout the day. And when things start to trigger me, or I hate to use that word because, everybody gets so triggered about everything, and it's just annoying to hear all the time. But we do all have triggers, not the lame ones that you hear about on the news, but, things do trigger us no matter what those things are. And, one of my biggest problems is that instead of responding, especially if something makes me angry, if my partner makes me angry, I would react, and I'd be mad at him, scream at him, yell at him, whatever I needed to do. If he hurt my feelings, it would come out as anger, and they're making this big old fight, and then it's awkward because nobody's talking, and just so uncomfortable. It's just drawn out, and I just hate it. I hate that feeling. So, so I have to make these choices, and I'm not, it's not something that I'm perfect at. It's something I work on and I struggle with, but I work on it every day, or any day that I want to react instead of respond. And, not every day is bad. Like, I'm not getting, I'm not going around screaming at everybody, and not everything's making me mad every day. It's kind of what it sounds like, but no, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I am, but, I say you want to respond instead of react. What am I saying there? So, if my fiance makes me mad, I could snap, I could be like, why did you say that? Or or just be mean to him too, or whatever it is that it is. And it just comes from this very angry, unloving place. But if I kind of take a step back and, I kind of explore what's happening inside of me, both, mentally and physically, and, and in like a small span of time, try to understand, like, maybe his side. Like, I wonder why he just snapped at me. I wonder, like, what he might be going through. I know, at first I was just like, I don't care. He doesn't need to be an ass, But, when you really want to make change, you just kind of go within and see what changes, you can make. And it took me a while to get to that place, but because I'm a grudger, like, I hold grudges. I like to hold a grudge. And I'm not so much like that now. I just want to let it all go. I just don't want to carry it anymore. I have, like, so many things I want to do. I want to look forward. I want to, move past everything that's happened to me, and, all the hurt, all the anger, even the dumb shit that I've done. I don't want to focus on that. It's not that I focus on it. It's just, I don't even want it to be something anymore. Like, I've made mistakes. People have made mistakes. I've been hurt a lot, and I'm sure I've hurt people too. And it's all about taking the time to understand that, yes, those things did hurt me, but they've also made me who I am. And my life is where it is right now because of those things. And it's kind of a hard pill to swallow, because when you think of forgiveness, you think, if I forgive this person, that means that it's okay. And it doesn't mean that. Forgiveness is such a complex, concept that you have to. I could talk about that for over an hour. Because I struggled with forgiveness for a long time. It's not about justifying someone's behavior. It's about doing what's best for you in your time of healing. So, oh my gosh, my dog is snoring. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Anyways, so when you can make the active choice to not hold a grudge, and it was a long, long time, and it's recent for me, and I did this practice, and my therapist, it was something that she said I needed to explore, because I have this real problem, with anger, kind of, and it manifests in all these different ways, and it's strange that everything comes out as anger, but you'll find, oh my gosh, my dog was snoring. I had to edit that because it was So loud. Anyways, so I was saying that my anger, it manifests in all these different ways, but it's usually because my feelings are hurt or, something hurt me. And my therapist suggested that I take a little time and think about maybe some of the things that I haven't thought about in a while that hurt me. Like, I could even they could be like small things, because I had focused a lot on the big hurts, the big betrayals. But, what about all the small ones? Like, what about all the friends that I had who no longer like talk to me? Whether it's because they had kids or family, or, which understandable. I'm not saying like that's a bad thing. Like, I get it. You're busy. You move on with your life. But I realized that there was a lot of those people in my life who, and I wish somebody would have warned me that all those friends that I had, all the weddings that I was in, all the baby showers, all the wedding showers, all of that, all of those friends probably weren't going to be there in my 30s. And I just really wish I just would have had a warning, because I thought about it, and it's true. Like, I talked to, I think, one person that I was in their wedding. And she doesn't even live here. She's my very best friend. She lives in Georgia. Hi, Amanda. And yeah, she's probably the only one that I still, talk to regularly, or at all, now that I'm thinking about it, because I don't have like Facebook, and I'm not very active on social media. That might change, I don't know, but not on Facebook. I'll never have that, but we'll see what happens. But it was strange, because I would work so hard to try to keep these relationships, like these friendships, afloat, and I would make excuses for them. I'd be like, oh, they're busy, they have kids, but then I made a choice, and I said, well, what if I didn't talk to these people? What if I didn't make the effort? Would we even speak? And a lot of people don't want to take that plunge. A lot of people don't want to take the active step to find out the answer to that question. But I did, and I realized that no, those friendships didn't last when I stopped making the effort. And it doesn't say, like, I don't sit back and say, well, screw them, whatever. No, it's more of a sadness. I miss them. Like, I miss a few of them. To have a friendship dissolve for reasons that either you don't know, or for, just no reason at all, the uncertainty can kind of eat at you. But ultimately, I found that all of these little friendships that kind of dissolve just because, life happens and it's what happens, it did hurt me, and I wasn't recognizing that hurt, because it was just, I chalked it up to, okay, well, that's life. But I wasn't giving those emotions the respect that they deserved, because ultimately they did hurt me. Those experiences, they're heartbreaking, because I'm getting teary because I'm thinking about those friends, and I don't know, sometimes I miss them, and it's hard to know that, I don't know, like, that despite everything that we went through, what we did, even after all of our experiences, me not making the effort, me, like, making the choice to not try so hard to keep these friendships afloat meant that the friendship wasn't strong enough to begin with, or at least not strong enough to withstand, life. So I don't know, it's hard to put into words. But anyway, what that exercise did for me was, because I had to have like a discussion, like I was in my room and I had to look at, these different situations, these different people. I had imagined like they were there. And I just had to say, hey, that really hurt me. Or I really miss you, like things like that. And it gave me a chance to explore, what I was feeling. But it also gave me a chance to learn why certain things trigger me in my everyday life. So, whether it's in my relationship or with my family. And I can recall, like, I had some struggles with my family. I don't know, I became obsessed with this idea that I wasn't being included, I don't know. It was like this really weird time in my life, and my feelings would get so hurt when the family would do something and I wasn't there, or nobody called, or I didn't get an invite or something. Like, maybe it was an oversight, or maybe it was like me being sensitive. I have no idea what that stage was. But what I do know is that I guess I felt like though my relationship with my family was going to dissolve too. But, your family, my family relationship, those dynamics are much different than these friendships that I had. And so, I can't really compare, but it was still a trigger for me. But, once you can kind of pinpoint what your mind is doing, the way your thought patterns are, and you can really learn a lot from that. And you can learn a lot by changing, those thoughts. It's a lot of work. It's hard work, but worth it in the end. But I don't know. It was just this whole period has been a really, a really big turning point or learning experience. But it's like small changes that I'm making, and not necessarily these big, scary, catastrophic changes that the world has forced on me. Like usual, that's usually what happens, is the world forces me to change in these very painful, catastrophic ways. And this time, it's about me wanting to make the changes, but also like seeing where I'm holding myself back. So instead of looking at a situation and say, oh, this person really destroyed me, it's been more about self-reflection and the changes that I can make. I have this really bad habit of trying to control my environment in an effort to protect myself from getting blindsided or hurt like I have been in the past. And that, that sense that I needed to control everything, it kind of like would leak into my relationship. I don't want to be that girl that controls, her partner. Like, I don't like... It's so strange how I feel like I can do that. Yet, if anybody tells me what I can and cannot do, I get infuriated. Like, I don't know. Isn't that so hypocritical of me? But so I'm really like working. Like, you can't control everything. If things are gonna fall apart, they will. Changes will come. You can be afraid or I think for me, I'm just one of those people who just really doesn't like change. It's scary, and it's usually really painful for me. And that's why it seems like the changes that have happened in my life, they're not really good changes. It's like a loss of a friend, it's a loss of a job, ending of a relationship, things like that. And it's just, I don't know, it doesn't feel good. So while I'm learning to embrace change, I'm also, forcing myself to change, but in a positive way. So now that brings me to my next point of like what's really been happening with me. I began by telling you that I'm trying to break a cycle. And I used to, like I said, try to control my external environment, and the transition has changed to more of me controlling what's happening internally. So, and this has changed in all like it is changing in almost every aspect of my life. So, it's about changing my thought patterns. It's about understanding my thought patterns. I mean, it's changed down to the way that I pray and the way I hear God. And, it changed, or it is changing. I can't say it's changed because the work is never really done. And for me, while it's been months, it's still just starting. And it always starts and stops and starts and stops. Why? Because I am the only thing that holds me back. And that brings me to the point of me being my own, myself. I'm a self-sabotager through and through. And I don't quite understand why yet. I don't know if it's fear. I don't know if it's fear of failure, fear of success, fear of being seen, fear of not being seen. I know that doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense to me either, but it's just like I do have these goals. But yet I always quit following. Like I have these dreams, these goals, and yet I quit all the time. I just revert back to my old ways. And I can get some momentum going, and then something will happen and it just stops. Or I'll get momentum going, and then I'll get drunk on wine, have the worst hangover of my life, and it just stops the momentum. And then I feel shame and anger, and I'm frustrated because here I was doing such a great job, and then I just quit. Like, why? Why am I doing this to myself? Why can't I just keep going? And it's been such a frustrating process because I think, which you shouldn't do, but I do it, is I think just think of how far you could be if you just were consistent. And it is not helpful to think that way, because I am where I am because I needed to be here. And but there is a difference between being where you need to be and being stagnant. And things are definitely changing now. I have things happening in my life. I can see momentum, but I have to stay the course, and I have to understand that I'm allowed to be successful. I'm allowed to have freedoms. I'm allowed, to have all these things. Like, all of us, a lot of us, we're conditioned to believe that we are not powerful beings, but we are. It is, and it's about tapping into that power. But even I struggle with that because, we've been taught that we're powerless, especially now more than ever. But we're allowed to speak up. We're allowed to have opinions. We're allowed to question whatever we want to question. And we're allowed to be unapologetically ourselves. And who we are at our core is unique. We're not supposed to be like everybody else. We're supposed to be different. We could be similar, have some things in common, but each one of us is unique. And there's something about you and me and everybody else that brings something to the world that nobody else can. And some people discover those things. Some people do it without even knowing. For me, I'm not really sure what that thing is, but hopefully I'll figure it out, or hopefully it's just happening anyways. I don't know, but I know that my purpose here is just that, a purpose. I'm supposed to be here. If I wasn't supposed to be here, I wouldn't. And is about acknowledging that, I do have purpose. I am important. My voice matters. And while it's become less about educating people and more about changing who I am so that I can be a better service to the world, I can be a better expression of God's love, God's light. I can come into the world, as an expression of something great, as instead of just spewing the hate and the anger and all of that that's happening so much these days. But it's not I don't think it's my job to convince the masses of anything. I think it's my job to do the work on myself and then have that work express itself out into the world in the most loving and authentic way possible. But it's about the work, then that's the hard part, because we don't always want to do the work. I know that I don't like to shed light on the things that I've done wrong, and that's what but most of my healing, I've been going to therapy for many years. I've switched therapists. It's on and off. It hasn't been continuous, but a lot of my healing comes from, a lot of what my healing has been, is things from my past, or, shedding light on the things that happened to me, kind of confronting, those past hurts and everything. And what's happening now is, you can only spend so much time on someone that, say I had someone betray me so terribly, and it affected me. But I can either choose to move on from that, or still just be but I was betrayed, And you just get to a point where, okay, yeah, I've sat with this. It really hurt. It might hurt if I think about it again, and if it comes up, but I don't want it to be some defining thing in my life anymore. And it's become less about blaming these people and more about coming to terms with, these things happened to me. I've sat with them. Now it's time to move on, because these things, they don't matter ultimately anymore. They serve their purpose, and now I must move on to other things. And I sometimes wonder if I was so stagnant because I thought about these things. It was always, this person did this to me. But now we're getting to the good stuff, right? We're getting to the things that maybe I have done wrong, or the things that I do. The ways I lash out, or the way that I become distant, or, how the way I can so easily shut people out of my life, or things like that, or running from my problems, or just, while I know I'm not perfect, I know that I've made mistakes. And, I just kind of think, I know that I'm not perfect, but I don't want to be so hard on myself, because I have been, so hard on myself. And especially like the way my life is, like how I'm getting my master's degree now, but I'm 34. Like, why didn't I know what I wanted to be sooner? Like looking back now, I think I kind of had an idea, but here I am. It took me this long, and I'm in school, and, and it's all very just strange the way life has worked out for me, because it's nothing like I thought it would be. And then I think about, sometimes I fall into the trap about what I should have done differently, but it's not really helpful. And I'm trying to change that so that I'm not spending too much time doing that, because it's not helpful. You can't go back in time. I am here now, and I can start here. I can start now. And, I can forgive myself for the mistakes that I've made, and I can tell myself that I don't want to make those mistakes again. But you have to be honest about it. Just as it was so hard for me, I don't know why, like it was so hard for me to express, my pain towards those little things in my past. But it did, and I feel better about them. Like, yeah, that still breaks my heart a little, but you feel better about them, because it's okay to feel whatever it is that you feel. And who's to say that you're not allowed to be sad about a friendship that ended for no reason, or a friendship that ended and you don't know why? You're allowed to you're allowed to feel however you need to feel, and nobody gets to decide that for you. You can't, I don't remember. I think it was that Lewis guy, the comedian, C.K. Lewis, who said, you don't get to hurt somebody's feelings and decide that you didn't hurt them. And it's really true. And it's something that happens a lot, like I've noticed in my life, where someone could say something hurtful to me, and I can be like, hey, that hurt my feelings. They're like, no, it didn't. I'm like, yeah, it did. I'm telling you that it did. sorry you don't want it. Like, I'm sorry you don't like it, but oh my gosh, but it's so funny. Not funny, but it is, because it's just that simple. Like, no, you hurt my feelings. And I have learned to be more vocal about it. And like, instead of like if somebody hurt my feelings, I used to lash out in anger or rage, really. But now it's gotten to the point where I've kind of calmed down. It took a while to get here, of course, but like, say my fiance hurts my feelings, whatever it may be, because everything pretty much hurts my feelings now. I'm so sensitive. But if he hurts my feelings, I just straight up tell him, look, that hurt my feelings. Or if he said something the other day, which he worded it wrong, but like, I'm learning to pick my battles. You can't fight all the time, but he said something I just did not like. but I took it wrong. It wasn't that he was being an ass. I just took it wrong. But I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to kind of let it go. But I guess he noticed I was being kind of quiet. He's like, what's wrong? And I was like, nothing. I'm fine. And he's like, no. And I was like, no, really, fine, really. And he was like, are you fine? Or is this something I need to drag out of you? Or like he just knew. It was like, we spend a lot of time together. And I was like, okay, fine. I was like, I didn't love the comment that you made earlier. I don't even remember, I don't even remember what it was. I don't remember, but I was like, I don't love what you said. I wasn't mad. Like, we weren't angry or anything. And honestly, he was like, no, I didn't mean it that way. I mean it like this. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it was fine. So, you can just say, hey, that really bothered me. Now, sometimes, this was not a practice that worked smoothly. Like, when I started this, it's kind of like when you start, implementing boundaries into your life, people get mad, like so mad. I remember boundaries, I struggle kind of, but I'm working on it. But people get so mad and oh God, I was getting yelled at constantly by people, and it was just so annoying. And everybody's irritated, why is she changing all of a sudden? People don't like when you change. And what's funny is I've been changing so much, and it's been a weird ride. But the people that matter, they kind of adapt. And me and my fiance are we're not in the new place. We're just better able to kind of navigate the rough patches. And not always easy. They're still learning there. I think relationships are all about learning. That's why monogamy is kind of a hard concept, because no two people stay the same forever. They're always changing. And especially for poor him, me being the person that I am, I'm always changing. I'm always wanting to grow, mentally, spiritually, psychologically. All of those things is something that I, work on, is being the best version of myself. So that means I'm always changing. So some days days are always different. He's like, why are you different today? Why are you being weird? Kind of like that. So, poor guy. But it's so funny because, like I've been saying, these changes that are happening, it's not about manipulating my environment, changing my environment, trying to control the situation so that I'm protected. It's more about just, listening to myself and my body and not the outside noise, and about getting to a place physically that's healthier for me. And, alcohol has been a big, roadblock in my life. So I live downtown Houston, and we just drink here. It's what you do. You go downstairs, there's restaurants, your friends, you have some wine. Some days you overdo it, or you had a bad day, so you just have some wine. And, I haven't drank in weeks now, and it's just totally changed everything, really. It was hard at first, but now, I don't know, don't give me credit. There's reasons why, I quit. We'll talk more about those later, but I'm not like this person that's like, oh, I'm going to be sober. No. So don't think I'm that, don't give me that kind of praise. But now that I haven't drank though, it's true, my moods have leveled out, and I'm starting to wonder if I even liked alcohol anyways, which is surprising because anybody that knows me knows that I just love wine, Excuse me, I'm gonna take a drink of water. So, which I do, but like right now I just think of alcohol in general, and I don't want it. That was, but that's been happening for a while. Like, I would go have wine. Like, we would go, we'd just be out, maybe at a restaurant or with friends, and yeah, I'd have my wine because that's just what I would do, and I wouldn't even want it, but I would have it there, and then I would drink one glass, and it would take forever, to drink that one glass, but then I would just keep drinking when I didn't even want it in the first place, and it was weird, like, the way that it worked out for me. But then, like, I would drink, but then I started to take like days off because I didn't want it anymore. And well, now I've stopped altogether, but it's been an ongoing battle. It's like, okay, I can drink, so I might as well just drink, but it was holding me back, like. And like, now that I'm not, I'm wondering, like, maybe all the momentum that I've wanted to make, maybe it'll start happening. But I don't know. We'll see. I always like to share the process. So many people, they do the work, then share. But I'm here. I'm in the middle of this mess. But you know about it. I'm going to tell you about it, and that's always been my goal. Not to give you advice or tell you what to do, just to share my experience, and then whatever resonates with you, maybe do that, and whatever doesn't, just leave it behind. It's not for you. Like I said, I don't think I'm here to convince anybody of anything, but instead share my experience, and maybe, it'll encourage other people to change as well. Like, change in a sense that, you want to change your life to feel better, to become a happier expression in this world, because that's what the world needs right now, I believe. I think some of us, we're just meant to be these beacons of light in a world that just seems so dark. And I think that's kind of my purpose sometimes, just to shake things up a little and do things differently. And it's not easy being different than everybody else, especially when you're surrounded by everybody that's the same. And I just kind of sit here, and it's hard to... It's not hard for me to show up authentically because, I don't really care about what people think of me or their opinions about me. Like, but it can get lonely. It can be, and it can get, very tiresome to talk about things that you don't want to talk about. And then everybody shut down when you finally have something that you want to talk about. But they think it's weird, or they don't have any clue what you're talking about. So I love who I am. I love who I'm becoming. But at the same time, it does kind of suck sometimes, just because you never feel fully understood. But I'm thankful for the people that are around me. I'm thankful for the people that allow me to be me, and they don't try to change it. The only thing my fiance asks me is, can you please try not to, like, embarrass me? Whatever. I don't know, like, I guess sometimes he just, like, look, he never... It sounded bad, but he doesn't mean it in a bad way. But he just, he's never asked me to be different. He knows that I'm me, and I really, really love that about him. He lets me just be me. And now he doesn't necessarily want to get lost in conversation about the different things. And we don't have the same beliefs on really anything. Maybe some things, but ultimately he's one way, I'm another way. But We just kind of level each other out most of the time. But let's see where this is gonna take us. I have some news, but I'll share that with you next time. And it should be exciting and surprising. And remember, I do have my website, basementphilosophies.com. I'll have this posted there. Also, you can get this on Buzzsprouts. We're not at the point yet where I can get on other platforms because I'm not consistent, but I'm going to work on that. And let's just see where this journey takes us. Wishing you all the best. I love you so much. And have a wonderful, wonderful day. Love you. Bye.